Through most of my childhood, mostly what I remember is not feeling safe. That was until my teens, and about the age of 13, I'd have to say, is when I began to blossom. And that's because I had my first drink. It was the only thing I had known. It's the only thing I knew at that time up to that point that took away the feeling of loneliness and that I was different. And it allowed me to come out of my shell, and it allowed me to try to fit in with this group of boys that I was with at the time. And from my first drink, I remember I was in love with it. So high school was it was tough, and then I got in some trouble with the law. It was around drinking, driving. And back then they used to tell you, well, you need to join the service. So I joined the service. On a ship, I would save my money, we would pull into port, and I would get in trouble. Alcohol poisoning, missed ship's movement, and it was all related with the alcohol. Consequently, the 5 years I spent in the Navy, I spent a year and a half to 2 years restricted to the boat for my actions, and hardly ever got. Every time I did, they let me out. I went out and got in trouble again. I remember the first time I ever really wanted help was to avoid jail time. The second time I ever really wanted help, it was because I was empty and alone. I was. By the time I got to Turning Point, I had no other way of dealing with this other than to end it, I thought. And the only thing that had stopped me at my one attempt was the thought of my daughter at a closed casket. I was pretty stoic in the beginning. I really didn't want to let go. I was afraid to. And slowly through that process and beginning to feel safe in the environment and working with, I had a therapist at Turning Point, was just an incredible man in my life. I kind of consider him like the father of my recovery, new way of life. And he was a very compassionate, but also at the same time, he always called me on my stuff. I felt hopeless and helpless, and I was neither one. All I had to do was accept the hand that was given to me, and on a daily basis, I can do that. It was the beginning of what I consider to be my real life. It's gotten better and better. Life still shows up, but it gets better and better. I've probably had the best year of my life this year. And my recovery is, I've buckled down, taken it to new places. And I feel good about it, and I owe that to Turning Point.